Allowing us to come and speak to you today. I'm going to go a little bit off script here, and I'm going to draw you a picture over here because Mr. Holstead, you asked a question, and I want to start with that before we dive in here. So right now, you guys are here, and you have tons of different priorities and directions that you're being pulled in, right? You have the community that's pulling you this way. You have teachers and faculty. You have state, federal mandates and different things that are pulling you this way. You have, the Dr. Cooper pulling you this way. All kinds of different things happening, right? How do we decide what our strategic priorities are? Do we just answer to everything and really never move anywhere? Or do we establish a vision, a strategic plan? I didn't go to Allendale, so my spelling isn't strategic plan. Or do we have a strategic plan in place that gives us a very specific direction that allows us to determine when all of these different things are pulling on us, which decisions do we say yes to, which decisions do we say no or maybe not now, and which decisions, which I would argue are the ones in here that we prioritize so that we move closer to meeting that strategic plan. And that's really the value of having a really, really good strategic plan. So that every decision that you make is made to move you closer in the direction that you want to go as a district. So I want to just give you a little bit about Link Solutions before we talk about our approach. But Link Solutions is a local training and consulting provider, and we work with organizations all over, from small nonprofit, small businesses to secondary higher education and up to billion-dollar corporations. Some of the companies that we work with: Domino's, Hayworth, Amway, State of Missouri, University of Arkansas, just to name a few.
Patrick, I'm so sorry. We do live stream our meetings, and we do have people online.
Oh.
And so if you're not by the microphone,
Stay over here.
They're going to have a hard time hearing you.
Sorry, I have a hard time sticking
You
to
can
the mic,
shuffle a
so I'll
little
do my
bit.
best.
I just want the folks online to be
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Okay, so just a little bit about myself. I have the opportunity to serve as the CEO and executive lean coach at Lean Solutions, and I also teach undergrad and graduate level for the University of Arkansas, and I have 3 Allendale Public School students, well, 2 that have graduated and 1 that's a senior this year, so local to me. I want to introduce Dr. Tennille Woodward, who is one of our strategic partners for this project, and let her introduce herself as well.
Nice to meet you all. I'm Dr. Woodward, Doctorate in Educational Systems Improvement Science, because this work is super important. I started off as a financial auditor for Arthur Andersen, worked as a senior systems analyst, and then spent 21 years in K-12 education, 9 as a principal, 6 in central office, most recently your neighbor to the north. So lots of different places, but this is super important work because, as Patrick said, if we're moving closer toward that North Star, then that gives you the opportunity to say no to some things, because we all know our plates are overflowing. So I have a question for you. When is the last time that you made a decision, and after you made the decision, you really wished you would have had more information to make that decision? Can you think of a time? Earlier today, maybe? First day of school, all the things that we learned. So one of the things that we want to support Allendale with is, yes, a strategic plan, but also a strategic execution system. So developing a dashboard of information. So as board members, you get questions from the community. When they ask you a question, where do you go to get that information? To the superintendent, right? So, or you have other places where you collect information. But what if you have these things accessible at your fingertips? So you get into a conversation with somebody, and now there's always internal and external data, right? So setting up a dashboard for you to have a lot of this information that's public available, but in one spot. so you feel like you have the resources that you need to provide answers to the community when they come up. This is how leadership governs, giving you the ability to look at all of your district initiatives in a visual representation so that you have the answers that you need at your fingertips.
And this would be a representation of the way that strategic planning used to be in the past. So normally districts will create a strategic plan approximately every 5 years. Normally it gets documented in a binder somewhere, and there are goals that are created. Many times these goals are very aspirational, they're broad, and there's also a district improvement plan, which we heard about. Sometimes those are connected. I'm glad you asked that question. Sometimes they're connected, sometimes they're not connected. Annual initiatives are sometimes created, but they're usually very siloed, where there's not cross-functional discussions that are happening to create something that's, again, in alignment with one direction. And then those are repeated every 5 years. A lot of times what we find is those binders end up in someone's drawer and they don't get looked at until 5 years later when it's time to pull it out and see how we did. And that's really what we want to change. We want to really flip the script on that. And what you see on the right-hand side is the direction that we would recommend and that we work with clients on. And this is really establishing that clear vision of the future. This is what guides every decision, and kind of like what I mentioned with the picture that I drew. But we establish very specific priorities based on that direction, and then we track what measures most. We have a system that governs the strategic plan so that it's not something that ends up in a drawer, but it's really the way that you manage and respond to all the decisions that happen in the district. You also know through those measures whether you're on track or off track. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit, and that really leads to the dashboards. We need real-time visibility so that decisions can be made quickly and that there's transparency with everyone around why those decisions are being made and how they're being made. Regular accountability through leadership reviews, and then making continuous adjustments to improve along the way. So that we don't end up 5 years from now pulling that binder out of the drawer and going, how did we do? Oh, we missed this, okay, we'll try again next year. We want to know on a regular basis in smaller intervals how we're doing, so that if we're off track, we can make adjustments accordingly before the year end, before the year 2, before year 3, so that by the time we reach year 5, we know that we've met the strategic goals that we've laid out. The current reality is, and we reviewed the current strategic plan for Allendale, and one of the things that I appreciated about the current strategic plan was the transparency around how it was created in 2021. Obviously, COVID had happened, and in the strategic plan, the plan clearly lays out that you took the last year's or the previous strategic plan, updated it during a one-day retreat, and used that as the strategic plan going forward. Obviously, that's what most districts had to do during 2021 because of COVID. But 2026 is very different. And I think we have to approach it in that way because there are so many different challenges that you're faced with on a regular basis. Not just with artificial intelligence becoming very prevalent in every aspect of our lives today, but when we think about enrollment shifts, student well-being, workforce challenges, school of choice now being a very big issue, funding pressures. I mean, all of these different things are coming at the district in a very fast manner. And the question isn't whether these challenges exist. The question is, do we have a system in place that helps us to prioritize these so that there's clarity in how we make decisions, and we know that we're going to get real measurable results with the challenges that we're faced today.
And I love that we just talked about how decisions are being made, and I appreciate that's focused on the current district improvement plan because it talks about when we make instructional decisions, we want that quick data to very quickly pivot if we need to. We have a group of students in front of us. A teacher wants to know, these are the things in my toolbox to make that pivot. We want to replicate that agility across the district. So all areas of your district, whether it's financial, operational, has that same information-driven ability to pivot. That's what a high-performing district does. And also, we want to make sure with that strategic plan, with that alignment across the district, that we are able to, a great strategic plan is as much about what we do as it is about what we say no to. There are things, you have all of these priorities, their plates are overflowing, and yet there's still more coming, right? With a great plan and a great system, you can look at those things, as we've talked about, and say, no thank you, not now. Of course, there are gonna be some things that come from different places that's not an option, but to the point where we can help our staff focus on what's most important, the closer we'll get to that North Star. So currently, we are having a challenge, right? So Patrick mentioned he has kids in the district. I mentioned that I live locally and have worked locally, so we're familiar with how the district is operating at the moment. Probably not to the intimate details that our administrators and our staff are. But one of the things that it might look to the community that our transportation challenges is the bus driver shortage. That could be the root cause. Or it also could be a lot of other things. So one of the ways that we can help with that strategic execution system is to help you identify what is really causing the transportation problem. What is really causing the budget issue that's coming up? Like, what are those things? And then helping you design the system so that you know where that is. So you have better reliability. Once you solve the system, you improve the outcome, no matter what part of the district you're talking about. Again, a bond coming up, that gives better reliability, more transparency for the community. They know they're building trust, they have information available as those systems are being put in place, and we're solving the right problem rather than finding out a few months down the road that we tried this, we tried that. We're getting further with the outcome.
So I want you to imagine that you're sitting in your quarterly planning meeting and you're asking yourself, how did we do? Well, what if you already knew walking into it? And that's really what a good dashboard will do for you, is it's going to show you where your action priorities are, also what is the tactical action that needs to be taken, and then it's also going to show you the measures behind that, as well as any trends that might be important for you to make decisions with. So going into any type of planning meeting or anything like that, you already have the visual representation of what's actually happening in the district specific to the strategic plan and whether or not we're on track or off track with each of the different strategic priorities. This is just an example of one of those priorities that would be a deeper dive from the high-level dashboard that would, again, give you the answers that you're looking for before you even need to ask the question. And this is what it means to have a good execution system behind your strategic plan. And I think that's an important piece that needs to be considered as you go into the strategic planning process, that you consider what the governance system will look like around that to ensure that it doesn't become that binder that's stuck in a drawer with nothing happening around it. How many of our students are going to end up in careers where AI is part of them? I think we all know the answer to that. It's probably every single career that we can imagine. So if that is the case, why would this not also be part of our strategic planning process? As we think about how AI is going to affect the district, I'm not talking about AI replacing teachers. What I'm talking about is AI becoming a complement to things like grant writing or student enrollment or parent communications. There's so many different ways that AI can be leveraged to help us to meet this, not only meet the strategic plan, but really drive all initiatives in the right direction and help to solve some of the problems that the district might be struggling with. And so this is a big part of what we would suggest is implemented into your strategic planning process. And that's something that we can obviously help you with.
So in the card that I handed out to you, on the one side, it talks about the 5 documents, are these 5 documents telling the same story? You have a strategic plan, a district improvement plan, school improvement plan, department initiatives, and then your budget. So these are all competing priorities, and the gap is the distance between the documents. What happens in between those things? how are they all connected? And those are opportunities to correct the misalignment of things that might be happening. So you might have initiatives where, for example, we put together a district improvement plan, but might have a central office committee or department that has other priorities, and so these are competing initiatives, which then splinters attention into different directions. So we want to look at opportunities, the cost of misalignment, and bring those things back together. We want to make sure that we're supporting the organization being capable of executing the strategy that we're helping you to put in place. A great strategic plan and a great strategy should make decisions easier. When is the last, like, if you think about making decisions, are you ever confused with, well, who actually gets to make that decision? Is there a situation where everything ends up at Dr. Cooper's door? If that's the case, right, then we need to help, because any one person, we're relying on the heroes in our organization to just continue carrying the weight instead of being clear about who gets to make those decisions. So with focused priorities, we're saving time, we're aligning our teams, we're getting better results, and we're also maximizing the resources. Again, looking at a dashboard, these things are able, you probably have data in lots of different places in your district. Every district I've ever worked in, you have it all. So trying to pull those things together in creative ways so that you have a quick view for your administrative team too. We want this to be available for you making decisions, but they also probably wish that some of their data was in one spot and they didn't have to go through and try to manufacture that view. So looking at what are the strategic priorities that we are creating, where do we get that information, and then giving them a way to look at it quickly so that they can make informed decisions as well. Those strategies reduces the decision fatigue that happens, and then they create the alignment that connects the organization together. So the actual process that we would go through with your team, we would look at a system diagnostic. So again, those qualitative, quantitative, so a survey of how the board, your staff, teachers, community members, both in person and virtual opportunities, your average, community member might not be able to come to a meeting at 6 p.m. So we want to give lots of opportunities for them to participate because their voice is very important. And then again, coming together after we have collected data of how the system is currently feeling, to create that vision, and then setting strategic priorities, starting the design of the initiatives that are going to support those priorities, and then backward planning that strategic execution system to create additional leadership capacity.
So I'll just wrap up with the last couple slides here and just say that a good strategic plan is going to need good governance, and part of our strategic planning process would be to help you create that. And good governance is going to give you clarity, it's going to give you a clear vision of what the future looks like and the ability to make decisions based on the right data versus maybe stale or no data. And so that's really what we're looking for, is to help you to develop a good governance system that can help you to achieve that strategic plan and align all of those other priorities with the strategic plan. It'll be one vision, one plan, one system, and that's really what we want to help you to create with the ultimate goal of students being able to thrive through Allendale Public School District. With that, any questions that you might have for us?
I'd like the dashboard. Where's the data coming from? Obviously, with anything, bad data in, bad data out.